We're proud to announce
Chance Forever. Help Rotary make history at endpolionow.org.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where our fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and our distinguished guests today. It's my pleasure to introduce the visitors we have today to our Downtown Tulsa Rotary Club. As I call your name, please stand with your guest, and we will hold our applause as always until all have been introduced. With Katie Johnson today is Tara Mundell with Stennett Associates. And Michael Burks has his daughter, Taylor Burks, with him today. And Charlie Westmoreland has a guest, Marvin Mann, with Amtech Controls. Lori Finlayson is the wife of Mac, and she's visiting with him today. Larry Ravenscroft is also a guest of Mac's today. Welcome. And Jeff Powers apparently has a friend, and that friend is with him. Jeff Johnson, excuse me, and his friend is Kent Powers. Glenn Wright has his grandson with him today, Brooke Wright. Brooke has visited before. Welcome back. Richard Holmes' neighbor is with him today, Jeff, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Tomerup. Close enough. Good. Doug Walker's guest today is Charles McLean with Valeris Field Solutions. And Bob Sade's guest today is with Tulsa Historical Society, and that is Michelle Place. Tom Clinda's guest today is Brad White with Hamilton Financial. And DJ Morrow Ingram has brought Lindsay Sparks with the Child Abuse Network. And Scott Philstrip's friend, Rick Stearns, is here with him today. And Carol McNern is a friend of Josh. And Josh, I know you printed, I can't read your last name. Herschel, maybe? Okay, thank you. And then our guest speaker today with WPX Energy has some guests, Eric Ellsworth, Melinda Blundell, Sherry Rawson. And then we have some visiting Rotarians. From the Broken Arrow Rotary Club is Chuck Giersdorf. Hi, Chuck. And from Hobart, Oklahoma is Jerry Strange. Not far from Mangum, right? My husband's family is from there. And from the Sunrise Tulsa Club is Joy, I'm going to say Ondrachek. Hi, Joy. A good first name, at least. And from the Sand Springs Club is Clark Shackelford. Hi, Clark. We welcome all of you to our club, and we would love to have you come back again. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. So for our Phones Out, Take Notes segment where we remind you about upcoming programs, the first thing I want to do is to point out that last week, if you weren't here, Bob Rorschach won a pearl necklace that was given away by our speaker, Mike Brennan, and Bob was sitting in the front, and now look, there are no empty tables in the front. I told you a little positive reinforcement would get the job done. We have some outstanding programs planned for you and some other events you need to get on your calendars. So really quickly, on August the 12th, a reminder that our speaker will be Jennifer Lauren, who's a well-known business and investigative news reporter. She's anchoring, writing, and producing a new program called OCIO, Voices of the Cherokee People. We're excited to hear what she has to say. On August 19th, a reminder that our former Oklahoma Attorney General, Mike Turpin, will be here. Everybody knows him. He really doesn't need much more of an introduction. On August 26th, Senator Jim Inhofe will be our speaker, and hopefully he'll give us the inside secrets on what's happening in Washington these days. And our last reminder, on September the 2nd, our speaker will be Cheryl Siddiqui from the Islamic Council of Oklahoma. And I don't know how you guys and gals are, but I know in my mind it's full of memories. They're kind of like dominoes. And once a little memory occurs, something happens that causes a memory to pop up, and then other memories come along. And when I learned that Cheryl was our speaker, I was reminded of a guest that we had here at this club, and I looked it up. He was here on November 28th of 2001. So it was just a little bit after 9/11. His name was Dr. Mujib Chima, and he was a Muslim. And I remember at the end of his program, there was a Q&A, and somebody got up and very politely said, we're a nation mostly of Christians, and we just thought you might tell us the Muslim view of Jesus. And I'll never forget his answer. He said, when I get to heaven, I plan to ask him. And I have spent quite a bit of time at my dinner table talking about that with my family over the years. So hopefully, maybe nothing that profound will happen, but it's just a little memory. A reminder of our committee meetings today. The Budget Committee will meet in room 233, Classifications in 234, and the IBA Steering Committee will meet in room 232. Be sure to attend if you can. A big thank you to today's sponsor, Stava Building Corporation, Rotarian John Stava. I don't know if you're here, but we certainly appreciate the support. There he is. Hey, of you and your company. The ongoing support of our sponsors allows us to continue our efforts to make a difference in our community, so we thank each and every one of you. And I remind you, when you need something done, think first of your fellow Rotarians, and if you need to know a reason why, just look at the four-way test. On behalf of the club, I want to express our condolences to Gordon Holland on the passing of his wife, Flo, on July 11th. There are cards on your tables for extending your sympathies to Gordon and his family. Also, we were going to report to you about Martin Keating's heart procedure, but he showed up today. So he's doing great. He looks great. He's telling everyone he can about his book. And Martin, we're really glad you're here, and all those thoughts and prayers worked. Yes. In that vein, keep Sergeant at Arms Alicia Herrera and her family in your thoughts and prayers. You may remember that she sent us a really cute video from our vacation in California last week. Well, evidently, soon after that, her father-in-law had a serious accident. He fell off a roof and suffered injuries, including a head injury. And facts are sketchy, so I may not get this exactly right, but it appears he has had surgery, but he's still in a medically induced coma. I did get a short email from Alicia, and in true Sarge fashion, she said to be sure to make a public service announcement today to all of you, no matter how old or young you are, stay off your roof. Please tell Alicia that we did make that announcement. On a much lighter note, I've strongly encouraged all committees who want to make announcements to consider a video for their announcements that we can play more than once, and so it can be polished and all of that. And so we have today our first example of that kind of video. I want to thank our Social and Service Events Chair, Jeffrey Rudd, for taking the time and effort to put this together. I am really proud of what he has done and for his hard work, and I also want to thank past President Rhonda for adding her class to this. And without further ado, watch this video.
Rotarians, past President Rhonda and I invite you and a guest to join us here at the Gilcrease Museum for an evening of California wine and art on Thursday, August 27th, beginning at 5 p.m.
Our new Rotarian, James Pepper Henry, has offered us a private viewing of the current exhibits.
For more information and to register for our night at the Gilcrease Museum, visit DACDB at tulsarotary.com.
We look forward to seeing you at the Gilcrease Museum on Thursday, August 27th. Together, let's raise our glasses to a new Rotary year to build new friendships and treasure the old.
Well, the good thing about that is we will get to see it again, but the effect wasn't lost. August 27th at Gilcrease. Make plans to be there unless you don't like to have fun, and if you don't like to have fun, you don't need to come. If our guests don't mind, we have to take a moment for some important club business. Our proposed 2015-2016 budget has been on your tables now for 2 weeks. You've had time to address any questions to the Budget Committee, so I would therefore entertain a motion to approve the 2015-2016 budget as presented. Do we have such a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, the motion carries. Again, we want to thank Casey King and all the members of the Budget Committee for their hard work on the budget this year. Now for our new member introductions. Today we have the privilege of inducting 2 new members into our club. If Jerry Dillon and John Raines will make their way up here to the podium to introduce our members, let me say this. I want to thank Jake Dollarhide for conducting their orientations today. To all my fellow Rotarians, I charge you to make our new members, Mark and Sue Ann, happy and show them how their Rotary membership can be valuable. Most importantly, give them your friendship and make them feel welcome. And Sue Ann and Mark, I have the pleasure of asking for your introduction, and after today, we hope you'll wear your Rotary pins with pride. John?
Good afternoon, Rotary Club of Tulsa. I'm here to introduce our newest member. It is Sue Ann Giersdorf. She comes to us from the mighty state of Virginia, and she traveled to us to take the CEO job of the Tulsa Cancer Institute. She's been here about 3 months. She's married to Chuck, and they have 7 children and 16 grandchildren, and Chuck is a member of the Broken Arrow Rotary Club, so he's part of the family. She came in under the classification of medical cancer treatment. She joined August the 5th. Her sponsor is Jeff Hassel. And I will provide you with your 4-way test and your Rotary pin and welcome you officially to the Rotary Club of Tulsa.
He just told me to check my fly, so. That's a real friend, Mayor. Well, it is truly a joy for me to introduce my friend who will give me frank advice. Mark Morley. Mark and I have known each other for years, and it's a distinct honor to introduce him. He is the husband, Jennifer, for 23 years. He is a father to James for 15 years and to a younger son, John, 13 years. He's immediate past president of the American Cancer Society's Cattle Barons Ball. And it was through that giving back to the community effort that they more than doubled the previous year's fundraising effort. And as a result of that, he's now involved on the national committee, the American Cancer Society's Gala Task Force. He's a registered investment advisor. He's president and owner partner of the Warburton Capital Management. And it's a distinct joy to introduce to you one of our newest members, Mark Morley.
Thank you, Jerry and John. Welcome, Mark and Sue Ann. Sue Ann and Mark, in electing you to membership in the Rotary Club of Tulsa, we're doing more than taking you into our fellowship. We're making you a trustee with us of Rotary's ideals. Knowing you to be a Rotarian, the world will, after today, no pressure, judge Rotary by your conduct. We know that you'll be an example of integrity and goodwill in everything that you do, and we're very proud to have you as members. Thank you. One of my 8 steps this year for addressing the Rotary value proposition that I discussed on July 1st was to work on our delivery of the message of Rotary. I want all of us to walk a little taller and talk a little louder when we speak to our family and friends and colleagues about Rotary, whether or not they are potential new Rotarians. We've watched one video from Rotary International along these lines, and I told you the story, at least those of you who were here on July 1st, about the Rotarian from Canada who used his encounter in the swimming pool to tell the stranger about Rotary. And we reviewed Rotary International's efforts to conquer polio, all of those in my effort to help all of us in delivering the message of Rotary to those of us we encounter in our daily lives. Now I invite you to enjoy a video by a Rotary Club in the United Kingdom. I've played it for many of our committee chairs and directors before, but most of this club, I hope it's not choppy, most of this club has not seen it. It embodies well the reasons why many of us find great value in our Rotary membership, and it hopefully provides good material for the next time you get a chance to talk to someone about Rotary. Let it speak to you. Hope you enjoy this video.
Rotarians, past President Rhonda and I invite you and again.
Not that, did you notice it wasn't choppy that time? The real version of that is really good. This was kind of like watching a silent movie, but anyway, you have to fill in the gaps. The real point of it to me is that really all of us in this room, when you look at it from the perspective of the rest of the world, have been very privileged to be where we are and to have what we have, and we ought to take the opportunity to give something to someone who did not have the opportunities that we did in our lives. Okay, we have a project announcement. Duff, if you'll make your way to our side mic, we have the pleasure of now getting to meet our inbound Rotary Youth Exchange student and our host families, and we're really excited about that, so take it away, Duff.
And outbound.
And outbound.
Before introducing our students this year, let me first acknowledge some of the members of our support team without which we couldn't carry out this program. Chase's counselor for next year is Eric Ortega. Are you here today, Eric? And Eric will be in touch with him constantly. Chase is going to Brazil, and we'll communicate with him and make sure everything is going great for him. And for Baylin's counselor, Alicia Herrera is serving for her counselor this year, and obviously she cannot be here today, but she will be her best friend and advocate throughout the year and help her with any issues in school, any personal issues. Hopefully she will not be homesick around Christmas, but Alicia will be there for you. And of course, our home hosts, without them we could not do anything. For this year, one family that's new to our participation are the Sands family. Kathy and Jeff Sands and their son Ben are graciously hosting Baylin this year, and Kathy's husband Jeff is a petroleum engineer for One Oak, and he couldn't be here today. He probably would have liked to hear this speech, but unfortunately he had another commitment, but hopefully he'll join us later. And Kay Bridger Riley is also hosting Baylin, and for those of you who are newer members, Kay Bridger Riley was a long-standing member of this club. She served as chair of several committees and made a great contribution. It was through her efforts that we really were able to launch our youth exchange program over a decade ago. And by the way, Kay, I have a form at our desk for you to renew your Rotary membership. And we have a lot of outstanding and great things going on, including we have a new committee on diversity and inclusion, and knowing your long outstanding contributions to the area of human rights and diversity, Chair Hannibal Johnson has personally asked me to invite you to please come back and join us. And President Jeff has even said maybe there was this talk about a signing bonus if you could come back. So first I'll introduce Chase Baker. He is our outstanding student from Tulsa Public Schools. He's going to outbound next year to South America. And just a quick note on Chase. He learned in December he would be going to Chile, and he immediately ran out, went to TCC and signed up for a Spanish language course, started in all his spare time learning everything he could about the history and the culture of Chile. And 2 months later, Paul Regan, our outbound coordinator, district coordinator, called him and said, "Sorry, Chase, we have some technical issues in Chile, but we have a spot for you in Brazil. Is that okay?" And rather than expressing disappointment or consternation, Chase said, "Okay, I'll learn Portuguese now." So we hope you have a great time. You're going to be in Campo Grande, Brazil, and you'll be there in the run-up to the Olympics, so we'll watch the CNN broadcast to see you holding the Olympic torch as you come to your city. And this is Baylin, Portugal. She is from Zaragoza, Spain. She is our student this year, and she will be attending Bishop Kelly. And she, in addition to being a great student, she speaks not only Spanish and English, also French. So all of you Francophiles in the audience, when you have a chance to interact with her, if you don't speak Spanish, try French. And in addition to being a great student, she's also a great athlete. She's a competitive basketball player in Spain and hopes to play at Bishop Kelly this year. And when I sent her a welcome letter early on, I told her about the Tulsa Shock and how excited it would be to go to games. And so when she arrived last week, she stayed at our home for a few days, and she said, "Duff, I guess I have to go to Dallas to see the Tulsa Shock." But there are a few games left, and if any of us in the audience have season tickets and would like to invite her for a game before they leave us, please get in touch with her. So thank you very much.
Baylin, I have a couple of things for you, things to say to you. We hope to have you back in a few weeks, and we really want to get to know you and learn more about your country and where you're from and your family. And I also want to say that my daughter was a senior at Bishop Kelly last year. She did not play basketball, but they could sure use you on that basketball team. So we're excited about you being here. Thank you very much. It's my honor to be able to introduce our Rotarian of the Day, Mayor Dewey Bartlett. Dewey F. Bartlett Jr. was re-elected in November of 2013 and serves as the 39th mayor of the city of Tulsa. Mayor Bartlett has been president of Tulsa-based Keener Oil and Gas Company since 1994. He graduated from Southern Methodist University with a Master's of Business Administration in Finance. Mayor Bartlett is a former Tulsa City Councilor, a former chair of the Oklahoma Energy Resources Board, and served on the Tulsa Airport Authority. A native Tulsan, Bartlett graduated from Bishop Kelly High School. Lots of Bishop Kelly connections today. Together, he and his wife, Victoria, have 3 children and 2 grandchildren. It's my distinct honor to welcome our honorary member of our club since January of 2010, Mayor Dewey Bartlett.
Well, good afternoon. Jeff, thank you very much. I might say that our 3 children have been busy. We now have 4 grandchildren. So that just shows you how things can pass quite quickly. But I'm here today not only to appear as your mayor, but also as a owner and operator of a small company in the oil and natural gas business to introduce my good friend, our fellow Tulsan, Rick Muncrief. He is the president and chief executive officer of WPX, a very significant, large, independent, publicly owned oil and natural gas company that was a result of a spinoff from Williams Company in 2011, if I remember correctly. Rick joined WPX about a year ago, a little better than a year ago, came from Oklahoma City. He's a petroleum engineer, I believe graduated from Oklahoma State University. Notice the orange tie and the suck up, see? He worked in the Mid-Continent and in the Rocky Mountain regions for most of his career. About 27 years of that were with ConocoPhillips, Burlington Resources, and their predecessor companies. Before WPX, he had a very significant position at Continental Resources. He was a senior vice president of operations and resource development. Continental Resources has had a tremendous career and record in the oil and natural gas business, and much of it because of Rick's involvement in the decision-making that he had made during his employment at that firm. He comes from a family that's been well versed in the oil and natural gas industry. 4 generations of his family are involved in that industry, including some of his children. He's moved all over the country. WPX is a very significant company. They employ 500 people alone in the Tulsa region, about 1,000 company-wide. Their local payroll is about $50 million. One of the interesting parts of what he has done, when he first moved to Tulsa from Oklahoma City, concern was, well, it might be someone from Oklahoma City just wanting to see what the company's about and move it elsewhere. Well, as a good oil man and as a good businessman, he looked to see how the company was being operated and were there other opportunities elsewhere. So 2 things happened. He compared what Tulsa's business climate is all about and compared it to Oklahoma City, to Denver, to Houston, Dallas, I believe, and eventually decided to consolidate the Denver office and the Houston office, I believe, into Tulsa. Tulsa won that competition because of our competitive environment and the quality of life we had, but most especially, we are a good place to do business, and Rick made that decision, and that's why they're here in Tulsa. That's why his family has bought a home here in Tulsa. That's why he made a decision not too long ago to buy a company from Oklahoma City for about $2 or $3 billion with a B dollars and acquire it. And now that's part of the Tulsa family of WPX. I'd like to introduce to you our good friend and fellow Tulsan, Rick Muncrief.
Well, it's great to be here today, and really, I tell you what, I feel right at home having Dewey introduce you and Jerry talking about doing a fly check. And I'm right at home. I'm right at home. So, well, thanks for the invitation to come and share a little bit about our company. We're very very proud of what we're accomplishing in the last 15 months. I joined in May of last year, and man, it has flown by. If I'm a little awkward today, it's just because I'm recovering from my first vacation. I finally took some time off after 15 months. My wife and I celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary. 48 hours ago, I'm at the Columbia ice fields just south of Jasper, Alberta, walking around on an active glacier. So we've got a little bit of jet lag going on, but great to be here today. What a wonderful turnout, and I can tell you I've not been a Rotarian, but I've always really appreciated what this organization has done in all the communities that I've lived in, and that's 6 or 7 different communities. There's a common theme, and it's all about community involvement. So with that, I think we have a PowerPoint. What I want to do is, Mayor Bartlett talked about WPX. I want to go a little deeper into what we saw. As you heard a while ago, WPX, many of you know, were spun out of the Williams Company, and I've known the Williams Company for a long time. When I was with Burlington Resource, later ConocoPhillips, Williams was a primary gatherer of a lot of our gas. Matter of fact, we were one time their largest single customer out in the San Juan Basin, northwest New Mexico. So very familiar with the Williams culture, the reputation, and quite honestly, felt that when we took over WPX a year and a half ago that we could get it to the next level. WPX is a good company, and is shown on the slide here. We were known for many things: innovation. If you look at some of the rigs that have been utilized and designed over the last 20, 30 years, some of the first ones were with the Williams production, which was the E&P arm of Williams. That's the exploration and production arm. So for some of those of you that may not be familiar with the energy business like some of us are, exploration and production are the folks that go out, geologists, engineers, go out and drill, produce wells, explore, and then obviously the pipeline companies transport the gas to end users. WPX was also known for excellence in a lot of ways. Technical innovation. They were also very well respected throughout industry and throughout the communities and some of the community involvement. And so, but what we found here was an opportunity to take a good company and make it great. And I can't tell you how much support and confidence I got once I met the team here with WPX. But one thing that was missing was technical excellence and operational excellence, and setting that standard really high, and having accountability for doing what you said you would do. And so that's something we've really embarked upon and laid out a strategy. And so last year was a defining moment for WPX, 2014. But I want to go back to a defining moment for me was in 1979. And I was just finished my junior year at OSU, and actually was working here in Tulsa. Mayor, that was my first exposure to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was an engineering intern for the old Laughlin Brothers Drilling Company. I don't know if any of you guys remember that, but we had an office out here at 51st and Memorial. Worldwide operation at that time, one of the largest, if not the largest, drilling contractor. And I'd spend most of my time on weekends and holidays and summers roughnecking, working on the rigs for Laughlin, and got a chance to have an internship that summer. Learned a lot. And I guess I made a favorable impression because at the end of the summer, and remember, I'm a broke college student, didn't have any money in my pocket. Their management came to me and they said, "Well, Rick, we got a opportunity for you, we think. If you would take an engineering position, we know you're 1 year short of your degree, but if you take an engineering position, we'd like to move you to Odessa, Texas." Now, we got to remember, I was born in Oklahoma, but raised in West Texas, Southeast New Mexico. Odessa, Texas was the garden spot for me. So you got to keep it on. Did I hear something about Mangum, Oklahoma a while ago? I thought I heard something about Mangum. Yeah, that's down the road from Reed and Willow, right? Yeah, I know where that's at. But anyway, they asked me to consider that. They would pay for my last year of college, and that's pretty tempting. And had to think about that. So I thought, well, the guy that I respect the most in the world is my dad. So So I called him aside. I said, Dad, and I'd thought about it for about a week, because I'm a grown man, 21 years old. I've got all the answers, or almost all of them. But I had one thing I wanted to ask him. I said, so here's the deal. I've got a decision to make. I can go down to the bank, borrow some money, and finish this last year, or I can take this job. Lay out of school a year or two, and then maybe go back, and they're going to pay for it. So, Dad, what should I do? And he looked at me, and he said, I don't know, boy. What do you think you ought to do? And he put it right back on me. And so in my mind, that was a defining moment. I was at adulthood. I'm going to, from that point on, live and die by the decisions I make. And so the same thing is happening today in our industry, and certainly at WPX. It's a defining time. It's a defining moment. And we have made some bold calls. And I can tell you what I did is I passed on that opportunity. I went to the bank, borrowed a little money, kept roughnecking on weekends, finished a degree. And that's 35 years ago. And so I'm glad I did what I did. But I'm really glad that my dad told me, I don't know, boy, what do you think you ought to do? All right, the winds of change. At WPX, we had to come out of a pipeline culture, if you will, and create a exploration and production culture. And that's one that we have, we talk about an E&P mindset. That's a completely different mindset. You better be able to evaluate risk. You better be able to move quickly, because there's a lot of competition out there. And you better be able to do things better than the next guy. And so technical excellence, operations excellence, engineering excellence, those all really come into play in a big way. So we're going to be more nimble. We're going to view our assets in a different way. We're going to challenge our assets like they've never been challenged. We're going to focus on profitability. No longer can we be hidden as a operating arm of a big conglomerate like Williams. We're exposed, okay? And so you gotta be ready for that, and greater risk tolerance. So one thing that we did within a couple of months after getting here is we felt like we needed to determine where we headed as a company. What kind of vision needs to be laid out? We didn't have a plan. We didn't have a strategy. We kept hoping for commodity prices to improve, specifically natural gas prices to improve. And that may not happen. You can't control that. So what we did decide to do is we laid out a strategy. We called it our 2020 vision. And so the 2020 vision basically says that we wanted to triple the size of the company, triple the operating margins on a per unit basis, and whatever line of business you're in, all the way from oil and gas to retail, whatever it is, you know that in a commodity business or in any business, really, you have to manage your margins. And the guys that manage your margins the best usually are the last folks standing. Same in the exploration and production companies. So we developed a strategy to triple those margins. Underpinning that would be a 5-fold increase in crude oil growth. Now, crude oil, we got some headwinds. I want to talk about that here in a few minutes. But historically, you'll go back and look that over certainly the last 30 or 40 years, the margins on crude oil relative to natural gas has been much stronger. And so on the E&P side, if you really want to supercharge your growth and your earnings over the long haul, we felt like crude oil is what we wanted to do. And in doing so, a 5-fold increase in crude oil. And that's based on 2013's actuals. So here's what we've done. So in 2013, you can see that our crude oil on a barrels of oil per day of production rate is about 16,000 barrels a day. In the first quarter, we're at just under 35,000 barrels a day. So in a 2-year period, we've doubled our crude oil production. Now, we're not alone. A lot of other producers have done the same thing. But I can tell you that at WPX, with the assets that we had under the hood in our Bakken up in North Dakota, and then in our Gallup Formation out in northwest New Mexico, we felt like we could take it several more years down the road. We still needed an asset that really gave us a very, very deep inventory, and so we'll talk about that. But I can tell you that I've been very proud of how the organization's responded and how we've executed, and execution is very, very key to us. If you go back and you look at our strategy, we also talked about the fact that the debt, how we managed our debt, how we managed our balance sheet was going to be very important from time to time. We may have to lever up, and then we'll work it back down. and that's how you continue this growth cycle. The other thing that was really important for us to get the right assets in our portfolio. So we had some assets that we divested of. We had producing assets from Appalachia, in other words, northwest Pennsylvania, all the way to Argentina and Colombia. We divested of those two distinct assets. We also have worked to divest of some shallow Powder River Basin, northeastern Wyoming, some coal bed methane up there. And so we really wanted to clean our portfolio up, bolster it, focus on 3 core assets. And in doing so, we've been able to fine-tune those 3 assets. And as Mayor Bartlett mentioned, we went through a process of evaluating where did we want the company. And I can tell you, when I sat down with the board of directors, my initial interview in March of 2014, what I saw was a board of directors that was incredibly frustrated on a company that could not hit its targets, could not deliver on what they said they would do. I also saw a management team that was extremely worn out and frustrated with the board of directors. You know, and so it was almost a toxic relationship. It wasn't almost about it. It was a toxic relationship. And so we came in and worked very diligently to bolster the confidence on both sides, and I think we were successful in doing that. But one of the things that I was asked to consider is, where should this company be located? And I have to tell you, and I've shared this with Mayor Bartlett before, is I had a perception coming in that Tulsa, some of the best days in the exploration and production part of the business were behind you. The best days were behind you. And that's why Houston is now the center. That's why when you look at Oklahoma City, what's going on there, look at Denver. And but what I found was that's not the case at all. I had a perception coming in that this is a great midstream pipeline town. You have just unbelievable, powerful companies like Williams and One Oak and Sim Group and others, and strong banking financial companies here. But what I found was, even within our own company, some really talented people. And on top of that, the stars have aligned for us. As other people have decided to leave Tulsa, we've been able to really pick up some outstanding talent, some of which were offered jobs in Houston. And I can tell you that I'm a competitive guy, so when Apache offers some of their best people a chance to move to Tulsa to continue a career, and we convince them to stay here in Tulsa with us, that to get our company to the next level, that gives me a lot of accomplishment and pride. But we are hiring. We actually had 120 people that we offered transfers from our Denver office to Tulsa. Denver is a wonderful place. I lived there 5 years myself. Wonderful place. And we had about a 45% acceptance rates, which was quite honestly about double what I thought we would have. And so, but we did get the people we really wanted. And so I felt good about that. We posted for about 38 technical jobs, and I believe, Kelly, I think we had 4,000 applications for 38 jobs. And so that tells you a couple things. Number one, the climate out there, and I think the other thing it shows you is that our status as a up-and-coming company has really changed. So we are hiring, especially for the technical talent. Over the last 15 months, we've been engaged. We have executed. We've engaged in quite a few transactions. That's both on the buying and selling side. As I mentioned, we cleaned up our portfolio, and obviously we announced another transaction just recently, and that was the purchase of a privately held company in Oklahoma City, RKI Energy. And RKI, they were in 2 or 3 different locations, primarily 2 locations. That's in the Permian Basin, down West Texas, southeast New Mexico, and then also the Powder River Basin. And we were very interested in the Permian Basin. As a matter of fact, even in my Continental days, I really wanted to make a move into the Permian Basin, but things had gotten pretty frothy. And at Continental, if you got 1.2 million net acres in the Bakken, and you got 450,000 net acres here in southern Oklahoma in the Scoop play, you got your place pretty full. And so we could never find the right entry point to get into the Permian. We got here, and if you'll recall, this time a year ago, crude oil was trading at $100 a barrel. Natural gas prices were $4. and you're seeing a lot of activity and a lot of excitement about the Permian Basin. And things were pretty frothy. We just didn't feel like we could afford it. Now the pullback in commodity prices happened, and a lot of people were wringing their hands. And I can tell you, it does not feel good. It hurts. But one of the things that we had done is we had hedged about 2/3 of our oil volumes for this year, 2015, at $95. So 2/3 of our production today for this year is we're selling at $95. Now the rest of it we're selling, to market, which is a real weak $45 price. We also hedged our gas at $4.10, about 80–90% of it. And today gas is, on the natural gas side, NYMEX is about $2.70, $2.80. So we did some things to really put ourselves in position, clean our portfolio up, strengthen our balance sheet to put us in a position to once again go on the offensive, and that is with this acquisition of RKI. What they bring to us is 22,000 barrels a day of production on an equivalent basis, 92,000 acres, about 120 employees. Most of those right now are going to stay in the Oklahoma City area. And also have about 400 miles of pipeline infrastructure, water and gas gathering. So we feel we made a tremendous deal. We had a lot of folks that asked us, wow, how did you get that deal? Privately held, privately negotiated. It was not a process. I've just happened to known Ronnie Irani, who's the outgoing president of Oklahoma Independent Petroleum Association for a number of years. And we negotiated the terms of the transaction for the most part at Panera Bread in Edmond. Now, some people may think, well, you sure you didn't go to New York or Boston and cut that deal? No, we met about 5 different times, and we got to where, Edmond's not a very big place. A lot of people knew Ronnie, and they know me, and so we had to come in and exit at the same time, or different times, so we weren't there at the same time. But on the last time we met at Panera Bread was on a Sunday afternoon, and there was a young couple, and they're probably from Jeff to I, back in the back where we wouldn't be seen. And this young couple, early 20s, were undergoing some marriage counseling. And they had a counselor with him, and he was obviously a man of faith. And I was sitting there waiting on Ronnie to show up. And like I said, I've been married 35 years. I did pick some things up, refresh my memory. But I can tell you, I was getting pretty uncomfortable. Now, the counselor could see me, and he kept looking at some nervous glances. The young lady had her back to me, and she was very engaged in the conversation. The husband, my view of him was blocked by his wife, but this counselor was he was really, really nervous, and I was getting a little uptight myself. Ronnie came in, sat down, and he quickly did a couple of glances, and I said, I don't think this is going to work. And so we left there. Actually, I've got a small office in Oklahoma City, so we went and met there that afternoon. And but eventually, we got out of Panera Bread. We sealed the deal at Cracker Barrel over at 122nd and I-35 if you're over there. So we weren't as obvious, but made a good deal. I think it's good for Ronnie and his investors, some of which had been with him for 10, 15 years, and I know it's a great deal for us. Now we do have some commodity price headwinds. We had to lever up. We took on some additional debt. We sold some equity. The markets right now, I think, are really concerned about crude oil prices and the supply and demand. So here's what we have remaining. The assets that we have now, we have assets in the Williston Basin, North Dakota, and then the Bakken up there, a place that we've worked for a long time. I've been involved in the Williston Basin since 1984. We have 85,000 acres in the very best rock in the Williston Basin, so I love our acreage position. I wish I had more of it, but we have some nice running room there. In the Piceance Basin of western Colorado, WPX is the largest natural gas producer in the state of Colorado. And so when we talked about closing the Denver office down, relocating people to Tulsa, I can tell you the mayor was a little concerned about. Governor John Hickenlooper, he talked, tried to talk us out of it. So, but it was, I think, the right thing to do. But we've got a lot of wells to drill up there with the inventory we have. We also have the San Juan Basin. We have 2 plays there. One's a traditional natural gas, and we've got an emerging oil play that's working out very well for us in the Gallup Sandstone family of the Mancos Shale. And then obviously the last asset that we just picked up with the RKI transaction, which by the way should close here in the third quarter. We're moving pretty quickly on it. Going to give us decades of running room. So if you look at our inventory, number of wells that we have left to drill, on the oil type projects, we're now at 4,600, so 4,600 wells to drill remaining on the oil side. On the natural gas side, we have an inventory of about 10,000. Okay, so I look at it as my role. I'll be a CEO for a certain period of time, and I want to pass the baton to someone as a stronger company one of these days, and one that has got a lot of inventory, a lot of production, has a right cost structure, those sorts of things. So I think we're really, really in good shape. Now we do have some headwinds right now. You've seen pullback in commodity prices. Oil's gone from $100, $105 a barrel down to $45. When we laid out our 2020 vision strategy, we felt like that oil, if you looked at what goes on in the world, we thought that oil would probably pull back probably to about that $80 range. We didn't see it coming back to 45 and 50. And I don't think it's going to be that way forever. Primarily because of the demand. You know, the world produces and uses about 92 million barrels a day of crude oil. And folks are talking about growth slowing down to 1% a year, okay? That's another million barrels of oil per day next year. It'll be 2 million barrels the following year, 3 million the following year. So you kind of do the math on that. And right now I think the market's focused on two things. OPEC, driven by Saudi, who's trying to protect their market share and not pinching the valves back. And then fear that Iran, with the nuclear deal, will be given, the sanctions will be lifted, suddenly they can get some more oil out of the market. But if you put those two together, the high side's about, in my mind, about 1.5 million barrels a day. Now right now we're about 1.5 million barrels a day over supply is over demand, okay? So what's happened is you've got this near-term glut, is the way the media like to talk about it, but it's just a fundamental supply and demand balance. Those of us who've been in the business a long time know the cycles. And just about the time you get everything shut down, it's time to get back to work. And that's the challenging thing that we have facing us today. That's why we lock in hedges, try to get some good pricing, those sorts of things. But when you think about the 90 million barrels a day that's being produced, you know, oil and gas, once you drill that oil well, the first day of production is the highest rate it's ever going to do. It's going to decline. As pressure declines, it's going to decline. If you were to take that 90 million barrels a day and not drill any more wells, the base decline worldwide would be somewhere between 5 and 6 million barrels a day. Okay, that's base decline. On top of that, you'd put another 1 million barrels a day of increased demand on it. And so I think what the market is focused on is number one, we do have an imbalance. It's near term. We do have some OPEC members that are talking about trying to raise their production, but I think the markets are focused as if those deals have already happened. Interest rates are going up. That's negative. A stronger dollar is negative for oil prices. So I think there's just quite a bit of things going on in the market that I think time will take care of. But in the meantime, we just have to work our way through it. On the natural gas side, clearly with the advent of the horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing, especially in places like the Marcellus and the Utica up in the Appalachia area, just been tremendously successful. Once again, we've got a little bit of a supply imbalance, but that's something that the U.S. can, that's our deal. And so what we need to do there is just throttle back. But we are in good shape. We have some challenges ahead of us. I talked about the fact that we have, upon closing, we'll have a little more debt to deal with, but we've got a lot of assets that we can continue to right size. We'll divest of some things, clean our portfolio up, and I think we're going to continue to be in good shape. But near term, the markets, they are pushing back on exploration and production companies right now. Pipeline companies have stayed in there pretty good. The producers are taking it on the chin near term. The longer time that goes on that commodity prices are down, I think the more violent the upswing will be. And so what we have to do is watch that. The other thing I want to mention is you've seen some things out in the press about crude oil exports. That seems somewhat counterintuitive. Why would the U.S. want to export its own crude oil? Well, what we have is a refining issue here in the U.S. I mentioned the 90 million barrels a day of production and demand. We have about 18 million barrels a day of refining capabilities here in the U.S. Because of EPA restrictions, regulations, et cetera, there's not been a new refinery built since about 1979, 1980. So 35 years. And during that time, the last 35 years, we didn't have the supply here domestically. So what's happened is the refineries, in some cases, have sold some equity interest to some foreign governments. We have Venezuela, we have Saudi that have equity interest. Really, it's about a third of the total refining capacity is owned by foreign entities. And so what we have is a situation where, because we did not have the domestic supply, these refineries had to fit their refineries to handle heavy, sour-type crude from international locations. And so when we grow our supply domestically, it's a light, sweet crude, and the refineries can't handle it. They're maxed out. So of the 18 million barrels a day, we're maxed out at about 6 million barrels a day of being able to get our product, the U.S. product, through U.S. refineries. Now, there's an export ban that was put in place for crude oil back during the Nixon administration. It's outdated, and so a lot of us in industry are trying to work with Congress to get that lifted and get that changed. So we're able to export our light sweet crude oil to friends of ours, allies of ours around the country, or around the world, excuse me, that want it, rather than us being, having our production shut in while we're taking more Iranian oil or more Saudi oil. Now, you can export gasoline. You can export diesel. And so all of us, when we go to the pump, we're basically competing with international pricing. And so that's what gets confusing for most of the consumers. You can export refined products, but you cannot export crude oil. And so what we're trying to do is level the playing field. And so I know 2 weeks ago I was in D.C. testifying in front of the banking committee of the U.S. Senate, and we had some good discussions there. And so it's not a slam dunk. I think a lot of folks in Congress are concerned that if we sign this export bill, gasoline prices go up, I don't get reelected, and that's the fundamental issue. And so we just have to continue to educate people on what the true issue is. Okay, I think I've touched on all these, but we're going to be, WPX is going to focus a lot on our technical excellence. We're going to continue to grow our oil volumes. We're going to do it prudently. And at the same time, we're going to be locally active in the communities in which we operate. I think Kelly has told me that we participate in about 600 different entities, if you will. About a fourth of those are here in the Tulsa area. And so where we operate around the country, we stay very active, not only financially, but certainly we encourage our employee participation and support as well. I want to just close. One thing that I think that we've instilled in WPX is the ability to be bold. I know we were talking with Matt today about the time to buy is when prices are down. Whether it's real estate, whether, I have a farm out in western Oklahoma, that's the time to buy farmlands when things are down, if you have the opportunity. We did the same thing with the RKI transaction. But I can tell you there's a lot of folks that are saying, wow, number one, how did you get that? And number two, aren't you concerned about the future? And I can tell you that we're not. We're not cocky, but yet we're going to be confident. We're going to run a good business, and we're going to do the right things. We're going to do the right things the right way is what we like to say. So with that, I'll close, and I'll open it up for any questions. I know we've run a little bit long. Apologize for that, but I love talking about our company. We've got a lot going on, so thank you very much. Any questions? Yes.
Oil export issue, what do you think the chances of passing and also timing?
Well, I think that I'm going to be very, very honest. I think it's somewhere in the 50% range. That's not a politically correct answer. I was probably at 70% 2 months ago, and it's just you really don't. You can read about the lack of participation in D.C. You can read about it in the paper, but you don't sense it until you're walking the halls of Congress like we have, trying to get Republicans and Democrats to talk. And something that should unite this country, it's just a real challenge right now. So it's a tough atmosphere up there, but we're not giving up. We're going to keep pushing for it. Yes.
I've got a son that's got about a year and a half left in energy land management at OU, and some of his friends are bailing on their career, their major. What's the job outlook in about a year and a half for energy land management?
Well, if he really wants to do it, I say try to find any kind of job in this industry. You may not come out as a landman. As a matter of fact, some of the best engineers that I had and developed through the years, we hired in 85 to 88, 1985 to 88. Those were tough years. Northern Rockies crude oil went for $9 a barrel. We weren't hiring petroleum engineers to be engineers. We didn't have room for them. I did need them as a pumper, okay? And they got to go to the field, and they got to learn the business from the ground up. So I'd tell your son, boy, if he can find a pumping job, if he can find anything, it'll make him better when things come back.
I just want to thank you and WPX Energy for the investment you do in Tulsa Public Schools. Your investment in Hawthorne, not only financially, but with your employees embedding themselves in that curriculum out there, has made a wonderful difference in those 400 children.
Okay, thank you. All right, looks like everybody's worn out. Thanks very much.
It was great, thank you. A book recognizing today's program will be presented to our partner in education school, Celia Clinton Elementary, and the book is Where Are My Books? When they told me that, I thought, is that really the name of the book? Again, as we always do, we want to make sure and thank all of our volunteers who helped make the program work today. Jerry and everyone else who helped with the technology, thank you. It was not their fault the video was choppy. Tell them thank you. Thank you all for attending, and go out and tell someone about Rotary. We're adjourned.